You slept 8 hours last night, maybe 9. You didn't do anything physically demanding today. You sat at a desk, you answered emails, you had conversations, you ate, you breathed, and by 6 p.m. you are so exhausted you can barely keep your eyes open. Not sleepy, exhausted. The bone-deep, soul-level fatigue that no amount of coffee or sleep or weekends can fix. You've had blood tests, your iron is fine, your thyroid is fine, everything is fine, except you are so tired you could cry and you don't know why. Freud knew why. He said you're not tired from what you did today. You're tired from what you're hiding. And what you're hiding is costing you more energy than you could ever imagine. In 1915, Freud introduced a concept that most people have never heard of, but that explains more about your daily exhaustion than any vitamin deficiency or sleep study ever could. He called it psychic energy, and he argued that the human mind runs on a limited supply of it. Not unlimited, limited, like a battery. And every mental operation you perform, every thought, every emotion, every decision, every suppression, every performance, draws from that same battery. Here's what's draining you. The single most energy-expensive operation your mind performs is repression, keeping things out of consciousness, every memory you've buried, every emotion you've swallowed, every truth you've refused to acknowledge. Each one requires active force to stay underground. Repression is not a one-time event, it's a continuous process. Think of it as holding a beach ball underwater. Pushing it down takes effort, but keeping it down takes more, because the ball is always trying to surface. The repressed material is always pushing upward toward consciousness, and the ego must maintain constant downward pressure to prevent it from breaking through. That pressure costs energy. Every single second of every single day. You don't feel this happening because it's automatic. Like your heart beating or your lungs breathing. Repression runs in the background without conscious awareness, but it consumes resources, real ones, and the more you repress, the more energy it costs. The person who has buried one difficult memory is spending a small amount of energy to keep it down. The person who has buried 20 years of unprocessed emotion is running a power plant just to maintain the dam. This is why therapy often makes people feel more energized, not less. People expect therapy to be draining. They expect to leave sessions feeling worse. And sometimes they do at first. But over time, many people report a strange phenomenon. They feel lighter. Not because their problems have been solved, because some of the repressed material has been allowed to surface. Every truth that comes up is one less beach ball the ego has to hold underwater. Every emotion that is finally felt is one less item on the energy bill. The battery starts recharging not because you added power, but because you reduced the drain. But repression is only the beginning. Think about everything else your mind does that you never asked it to. The false self. We talked about this in session 6. The person you pretend to be. The mask you put on every morning. That mask costs energy to maintain. Every interaction where you perform instead of exist is a withdrawal from the battery. Smiling when you're not happy. Saying fine when you're not fine, laughing at a joke that isn't funny because the person telling it matters to you, being interested in a conversation that bores you, being calm when you're furious, being strong when you're falling apart. Each performance is small, but you perform hundreds of times a day, and by evening the battery is empty, not from work, from acting. Think about the last time you spent a full day being completely yourself. No performance, no adjustment, no scanning the room for what was expected of you, no translating your real opinion into a safe one before speaking, no calculating whether your laugh was the right volume or your silence lasted too long. If you can't remember, that tells you something. You have been running the performance continuously for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to turn it off. And you've confused the exhaustion of performing with the normal tiredness of living. They're not the same thing. Normal tiredness comes from effort. It feels earned. You did something and now you rest. Performance exhaustion comes from suppression. It feels hollow. You did nothing and you're still empty. Because the energy didn't go to living. It went to pretending to live. There's a vast difference between a day that tired you out because you gave everything and a day that drained you because you hid everything. The first kind of tired feels good. The second kind feels like dying slowly in a room where no one can see it happening. The superego is another massive drain. Your internal judge never sleeps. We discussed this in the happiness session. The superego monitors everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, and measures it against an impossible standard. That monitoring costs energy. Every self-critical thought, every comparison, every moment of guilt, every flash of shame, each one is a transaction on the energy account. And the superego doesn't have business hours. It runs at 3 a.m. when you're trying to sleep, reviewing the day's failures, preparing tomorrow's anxieties, writing the prosecution's case for a trial that never ends. You wake up tired because your mind worked a full shift while you were sleeping. And then there's the vigilance. If your attachment style is anxious, your nervous system is running a threat detection program every waking moment, scanning faces for disapproval, interpreting silences as rejection, monitoring your partner's mood for early warning signs of abandonment, rereading text messages for hidden meanings, analyzing the length of a pause before someone replied, measuring the warmth of a greeting against yesterday's greeting to detect any decrease. This program is extremely energy-intensive because it never finds what it's looking for. The reassurance it seeks is temporary. Every all-clear signal is immediately followed by another scan. The nervous system is caught in an infinite loop, burning through energy searching for a safety that it cannot hold even when it finds it. You could receive 10 compliments and the anxious scanner would focus on the one person who didn't say anything. You could have a perfect day with your partner and spend the evening analyzing the one moment where their smile seemed slightly less warm. The scanner doesn't rest. It doesn't take days off. And it's been running since you were a child. If your attachment style is avoidant, you're spending energy on a different program, the wall maintenance program. Keeping people at a calculated distance requires constant monitoring. How close are they getting? Are they expecting more than I can give? Do I need to create space? Am I being too available? Did that text sound too eager? Should I wait before replying? Every relationship exists inside a carefully managed buffer zone, and managing that zone, adjusting it moment by moment, reading the situation and recalibrating your level of availability to prevent anyone from getting close enough to need you, that takes energy you don't realize you're spending. The avoidant person looks relaxed, they look independent, they look like they don't care. That performance of not caring is one of the most energy-expensive programs a human mind can run. Now add the daily suppressions that everyone does without thinking. The anger you swallowed in traffic, the frustration you buried at work when your idea was dismissed, the sadness you pushed aside because you were in public and crying wasn't an option. The anxiety you numbed with your phone instead of feeling, the moment of genuine loneliness you covered with a text to someone you don't actually want to talk to, the flash of envy at a friend's success that you converted into congratulations before you even registered the original feeling. Each suppression is a small energy expenditure that doesn't get recovered because the emotion wasn't processed, it was just postponed. And postponed emotions collect interest. They require more energy to maintain as time goes on. Today's swallowed anger becomes tomorrow's inexplicable irritation. This week's buried sadness becomes next week's heaviness that has no name and no cause. The emotional debt accumulates invisibly and the interest payments are made in fatigue. Freud described a patient who came to him complaining of chronic exhaustion. The man was young, healthy, successful, had no medical explanation for his fatigue. He slept well, he ate well, he exercised, he had been to 4 doctors. They all said the same thing: there's nothing wrong with you. But something was clearly wrong because by 2 p.m. every day he was barely functional. His wife thought he was depressed. His boss thought he was losing interest. He thought he was dying of something no test could find. Freud didn't test his blood. He tested his mind, and what he found was a man who was maintaining an extraordinary number of simultaneous repressions. An abusive childhood he had never discussed with anyone. A marriage he stayed in out of obligation, not love, smiling every morning at a woman he felt nothing for while pretending the performance was partnership. A career he pursued because his father demanded it, not because any part of him wanted it. A sexuality he had buried so deep he had no conscious awareness of it, only a vague, persistent shame he couldn't source. Each one of these repressions was running constantly in the background like invisible applications on a phone, draining the battery while the screen shows nothing. And the man's conscious mind experienced the total cost as physical fatigue. He wasn't tired. He was depleted. His battery wasn't low from use, it was low from maintenance, from the enormous energy required to keep 4 major truths submerged simultaneously while living as if none of them existed. When Freud helped him begin to address even one of these repressions, the fatigue started to lift. Not because the problem was solved, because the energy required to keep it hidden was partially released. The truth, even a partial truth, even a truth whispered in a dark room to one other person, costs less energy than the lie. Always, every time, the truth is cheap. The lie is what's expensive, and you've been paying for it your entire life. Modern research confirms this with striking precision. Studies on thought suppression show that the act of trying not to think about something consumes measurable cognitive resources. People who are asked to suppress a thought perform worse on subsequent tasks requiring concentration, willpower, and decision-making. The suppression literally depletes the same resource pool that those tasks draw from. This is called ego depletion, and it's been replicated in dozens of studies. Your willpower, your focus, your patience, your creativity, your emotional regulation, they all share a battery. And repression is draining that battery before you even start your day. Before your first meeting, before your first conversation, before you do a single productive thing. The maintenance programs have already taken their cut, and what's left is what you're trying to build a life with. No wonder the building feels like it's always about to fall. This is why you have no patience left by evening. Not because your children are exhausting, although they are. Because your ego spent the day's patience on suppression and performance and self-monitoring, and there's nothing left for the people who need you most. The cruelty of it is that the people closest to you, the ones you love most, get the emptiest version of you. Not because you don't care, because the battery is dead by the time you get home. All the energy went to strangers and colleagues and the performance of being someone the world would accept. Your family gets the remainder, and the remainder is exhaustion wearing a human face. You snap at your partner over nothing and you don't know why. You sit at the dinner table physically present but mentally gone. Your child tells you about their day and you nod, but you're not listening because listening requires energy you've already spent on a meeting that didn't matter with people you don't love about a project you don't care about. The people who deserve your full attention get your empty attention. And the guilt of knowing this, of seeing yourself do it and being unable to stop, becomes another drain, another program running, another beach ball to hold down. The exhaustion creates guilt. The guilt creates more exhaustion. The cycle feeds itself. So what do you do with a battery that's being drained by invisible programs? Freud's answer is the same one that echoes through every session we've done. Make the unconscious conscious. Not all at once, not violently, but deliberately. Each truth you allow to surface reduces the maintenance cost. Each emotion you actually feel instead of burying frees up energy. Each moment of authenticity, however small, however brief, is a moment where the performance program is paused and the battery gets to recover. Tonight, try this. When you get home and you feel that familiar end-of-day depletion, don't collapse into the couch and reach for the phone. Sit for 2 minutes, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what did I hide today? What did I feel but not say? What did I want but not ask for? What did I pretend that wasn't true? You don't have to do anything with the answers. You don't have to change your life tonight. Just let the answers exist. Let them surface for 2 minutes. That alone reduces the energy cost. Because a truth that's acknowledged even silently, even only to yourself, requires less energy to carry than a truth that's being actively suppressed. The beach ball doesn't have to fly out of the water. It just needs to be held a little less tightly. And even that small release, that inch of relaxation in the grip, is enough for the body to feel the difference. You are not lazy, you are not weak, you are not broken. You are running more programs simultaneously than any human mind was designed to run. And the exhaustion you feel is not a failure of effort. It's the cost of hiding, the cost of performing, the cost of holding down every beach ball your life has ever thrown into the water. Imagine what you would feel like if you could turn off even half of those programs. Not all of them. You need some of them, but half. Imagine the energy that would return, the patience, the presence, the ability to actually be in a room instead of performing being in a room. That energy exists. It's yours. It's just currently allocated to maintenance. Freud said the goal isn't to have no unconscious. That's impossible. The unconscious is part of being human. The goal is to have a smaller one, to shrink the basement, not by ignoring what's in it, but by carrying it upstairs, one box at a time, and putting it where it belongs, in the light, where it costs nothing to keep. Every box you carry up is energy returned. Every truth you speak is a program shut down. Every emotion you feel instead of bury is a beach ball you no longer have to hold. You've been paying rent on a darkness you don't need, storing things in the most expensive warehouse in existence, your own nervous system, things that would cost nothing if you just let them sit in the open. Maybe it's time to stop paying. Maybe it's time to let the bills come due, feel them, survive them, and discover that the cost of truth is always less than the cost of hiding. You have more energy than you know. It's just currently allocated to keeping you small. This has been your session on the couch, Freud. If you want to understand what your mind is hiding from you, subscribe. New sessions every day.